Hi, everyone. It's James Colhoun here from Food Matters, and I'm here with Barbara Thompson. She's a graduate of the Food Matters Institute Nutrition Certification Program. Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Hi, James. I'm good. It's nice to be here.
Fantastic. So, what inspired you to study nutrition? Was it a personal story or was it part of professional development? What was it for you?
Really great question. What inspired me to study nutrition was from about 16 years old, I was in a gym and I always aspired to do bodybuilding. And so I was surrounded by that type of culture. And what I found was I was going to everyone else for the answers. And I was looking back, I was in that world from about 16 years old to 38 years old. And in that, everyone else was telling me what to eat. Everyone else was telling me what to do. And in that I did, and also I find it really interesting that my life has led me, we take paths and turns that take us to a place of where we are today. And I had a think last night of where my nutrition journey started. It did start when I was 16 years old in the gym, food plan after food plan, competing as a bodybuilder, and really being so disconnected from my body. Being like looking healthy, but I wasn't healthy. I was not connected to my body. And I actually forgot a whole chapter of my life. When I was 20 years old, I actually was a centre director for the biggest Jenny Craig centre in Australasia. So out of university, I got that job and was really recruited and moved up the ranks really quickly. And that's where my nutrition, my spark of women's wellness and nutrition and weight loss started. But it's interesting because it was all, if I'm being honest, it was all centered around cosmetics, how I looked, nothing to do with my health. I didn't even know how to check in with my body and know how I felt. So from 16 years to 38 years old, I was constantly on a diet. I was constantly eating a food plan that someone else gave me. Now I know that they weren't even qualified to give me a food plan. And when I look back on all the food that I was given, it was packets, it was powders, powdered peanut butter. It was everything that was very highly processed, but I didn't even know what that meant back then. And so when I was 38, I moved from New Zealand to Australia and then went through some very, very tough years of my life, which made me think, okay, I need to come back to self. I went through therapy myself and found this massive disconnect that, hang on, I looked how I always wanted to look. I was always worried about weight loss. I had the dream body quote, but I was so empty inside. I was always chasing the thing that I never got. And then so at 38, when I went through some really tough times in my life and went to therapy, I kind of peeled everything back. And that's when
Mm,
I discovered food matters and food is medicine. And I was like, hang on, why am I going to everyone else for answers? I've got this thing called my intuition, which was the first time I tapped into that and connected with myself. And I was like, there must be more to this. And then I joined the Food Matters community. And then the rest was like, oh my gosh. And then from that, I studied to be a therapist and now I own my own private practice. And in my private practice, the kind of umbrella is all about relationships, the relationship with yourself and not going to anyone else for
mm.
answers. We all have the answers. And your program really helped me. And every day, believe it or not, I use it in my therapy practice with a client, whether they're stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, they've got issues with their hormones, the gut brain connection. Like it is such a perfect uh, certification for me to use, and I use it every day.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I love this sort of journey to self and this like concept of the inside job. You know, you were externalizing a lot of the validation, you're externalizing this expertise. And then once you took it in-house, you took, new control of your life and your body. And now you're a therapist and you're certified as a nutritionist, as a nutrition consultant. So, what were some of the surprising things that you learned in the program? What were some of the things that really stood out for you?
One of the things that really stood out to me was it was food, but there were so many other things that were, well, actually, let me be really honest. The thing that stood out to me, which was really cool, was reading the back of a packet or reading the ingredients. And I haven't shared this with you guys, but my background is marketing. So I've been head of marketing for a company. Once I left Jenny Craig, I went knee deep into marketing. I know the things. I've developed many food supplements and packages and was in charge of writing all the ingredients out and all of that stuff with a packaging company. And even then, I still didn't click. And then one of the things was through the course, it was like, you are what you eat. But let's dive down and let's look at actually what ingredients, pick something up. And if it says it's a can of tomatoes, would you believe that the second or third ingredient sometimes is sugar? And then that I was like, that's not a can of tomatoes. But my marketing background is, but the can says it's a can of tomatoes. So that I know it sounds very simple, but that is something I think was the biggest aha moment. And I share that with my clients. They're like, "Oh, I'm eating this." And I'm like, "Oh, do you actually look at the packet and the ingredient and don't even worry about the numbers on the table right now. Let's just look at the ingredients." And they go, "Oh, don't be silly." And if I fast forward to my life today, my life is actually I've got a therapy dog that's in practice with me, but I had a therapy dog 2 years ago. My other one passed away, and she had severe Cushing's disease. And even though I know that she was my dog, watching her go through that disease, and then when I got my puppy, through my food matters certification and me knowing food is medicine, I actually peeled back her diet and now she's on similar stuff that I preach and I use. So it's such a great ripple effect that not only are we using this for ourselves, but I have a therapy dog and people touch her all the time. And I want her, when you have an animal, if any of you have pets, they are part of your family. And if you've had an animal that does have an illness like Cushing's, it's a very, very heart wrenching, difficult disease to watch a dog or an animal go through. And then and I just felt really bad. And you only work with the information that you've got. And there's a brand called Smackos, which is the dog treats. And like my poor dogs, I used to have a pug as well. I used to have two dogs, and those dogs would eat that stuff all the time. And I didn't know I'd give them a little treat. And then when I got my new puppy, I was like, let me read the ingredients. And I read
Yeah.
the ingredients, and every single dog treat, especially at the supermarket, the second ingredient is sugar, or the third ingredient. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I know it sounds really simple, and I feel silly even sharing it a little bit because it sounds so simple to me now, but I was that person that I loved my animals, I loved myself so much, and I was chasing the things that weren't in alignment with myself, but I didn't have all the information.
Yeah, I mean, and you come back to this sort of concept over and over again of like, I know it sounds simple, but
Yeah.
that's where fantastic foundations are made when it comes to health and well-being is from peeling everything back and making everything as simple as possible and building a new understanding. So I'm so proud of you for your continued transformation and also for the work that you're doing now with your clients. So in your clinic, people come in and they do therapy and then you're also working with them nutritionally. Is that correct?
Yeah, they don't realize that. So I that's kind of like a power move that I have. So for a lot of my clients, like most people, if you haven't been to therapy, it can be very scary. You see things in the movies and you think, how can that help me? And I was that person, but it really changed my life. But also through my therapy, I had some really difficult situations with therapists. I had therapists that crossed the line. I had therapists that weren't ethical. And I actually, again, my life has been a series. If you look at my timeline, I did that job and that led me to this. And I met this person, this led me to this. And there was a stint in Australia where I had like a marketing business, consulting business. And I had a company which was a counseling clinic. And they said, can you come and manage our clinic? I wasn't going to be a therapist. I was in marketing. I was really good at it. And then for 6 months, I worked in this clinic. I managed it. I did all the paperwork, all the marketing and sales and stuff. And then it felt like at the time that every person that was coming up to the counter to pay, can we come and see you? And it's because I would remember their name. It wouldn't be, I'd just say hi to them. I was polite. The kids thought I was funny because I sounded different. I'm from New Zealand. So they'd always ask me to say words like fish and chips. And I taught them what jandals were, which are flip flops. So they thought I was really cool. And then their parents are like, can we come and see you? And I was like, I'm not a therapist. And something in my body shifted, something in my brain shifted that, hang on, I think this is your calling. I think this is what you need to do. And through that, I actually did something with it. But when people come and see me, the biggest thing I do is kind of debunk what I'm not a clinical therapist. I'm a therapist that I want you to have results. I want you to have changes, but it's the whole mind body connection. It's not just tell me how you feel. I get them results. And it's how could I not sit in front of someone? And if someone's telling me they've got gut issues or they've got skin issues or they've got anxiety or they're stressed or overwhelmed, how can I not look at their food? How can I not say, have you had some blood tests? What's your vitamin D levels like? Especially with anxiety, when we talk about omegas and all that kind of stuff. Like, are you having some greens? What are you doing? And I feel really comfortable with the information and what I've studied with you guys to be able to sit in front of someone and competently hold their hand and be like, this isn't therapy as you know it. It's therapy that I don't want them to come and see me forever. I want them to have the results. I want them to have the information. And I think that's why I love what I do, is it's that connection between, yes, your mind and your body and your feelings and your emotions, but what's going into your body?
Mm, I love that. Like, not just in your mouth, but also in your mind and in your environment. It's beautiful. What would you say, Barbara, to people who are thinking about studying nutrition, they may be on the fence?
Oh, if you're on the fence about studying nutrition, I think, especially from a female's point of view, how many times do you wake up and go, I'm going to start on Monday, and all these rules and restrictions? And how about learning that nothing is off the table? You learn like a qualitarian diet, you learn having good stuff. And most people, unfortunately, don't know what good feels like. So if you're sitting on the fence, I think of more, I did it to take my power back. I did it to be like, you know what? I'm sick of paying money for another plan that doesn't work. And also, like, if you think that your life is going to be better when you look a certain way or you lose the extra 5 kilos, take it from someone that has done that. I was there and I was still chasing it. And when I'd look in the mirror, I wouldn't see what everyone else would see. So by taking your power back and doing a course like this, it's like you get to learn. It's fascinating. Like, you learn, and it's so much more than just nutrition, what you guys do. Like, the fact that I use essential oils in my studio. So I'm a little bit nerdy that when a client comes in, I will know that bit of their background, what they're going through, and I will actually specify. I'll look at some oils and I'll use the specific oils for the client that's coming in. So they always walk into my studio and, that smells nice. But they don't realize that the work is already starting. I'm already shifting things for them, and that's through your course. So yes, it is nutrition, but it's not what you think it is. And I think being on the fence, for me, when I was actually in your very first intake, I was one of the students that was, when you first started the course, I was in that first intake. And what helped me kind of jump over the fence was, I've got a lifetime membership. So I've already done the course twice and I'm about to do it a third time, because there's always new things that I'm learning. I go back, and that's what really sold it for me was, I want to learn about the stuff myself, but also, that was way before I was a therapist. But then also, now I get to do it. I've done it twice and I'm going to do it again this year, just to go through everything and upskill myself. So isn't that a good reason to do the course?
I love that. That's so amazing. Thank you. And how can people find out about your work? How can they follow you? How could they learn about your clinic and the work you're doing? I'd love if you could share that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me share that. So I'm based just south of Wollongong in Australia, but I work with clients all around the world online. But I do have a private studio in Shellharbour. So I'm on Instagram, which is self underscore care underscore studio. And on there, you'll see everything about me. You can book online, but I actually have a podcast as well. And I have had Dr. Libby Weaver on my podcast. So that was really nice to have her on my podcast, and she'll be coming on again soon. So my podcast is called Soul and Soma Talk, and that's just an extension of the therapy work I do with clients. Sometimes people can't afford to have a therapy session with me, so I give them tools. I also do nutrition courses, and which is and audio courses I've just started to do. So it's such a cool place. So come over to self underscore care underscore studio, and my website's on there as well. So yeah, and I reply to every message. I'm always around. If you have any questions about anything that we've spoken about today, or want to know a bit about me or my business or therapy in general, honestly, just come and say hello.
I love it. Check it out. Reach out to Barbara and check out her podcast as well. So lovely to chat with you today. Keep up the amazing work and yeah, keep on helping people. I love this ripple effect that we are creating in the world. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, James.